Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. Our topic today is pricing updates quick and easy. My name is Julie Zindel. I'm the VP of Client Experience here at Central Data. We are bringing these informative webinars on a regular basis throughout this year as a value-added benefit to our clients. Next month on March 16th, we'll present on another topic, which is customer reservations. So please watch for the opportunity to register for that session for next month. A few housekeeping items. Please note that we have clients attending today on various levels of SXE, Web UI on-premise, and Cloud Suite distribution. We will be showing the web user interface only, and we are working in the cloud, so which has the latest updates applied each month. So we are always on the latest version. The lines will be muted until our Q&A time at the end, but if you have a question, please put it into the chat or the questions section of the meeting, and I'll be monitoring the chats as they come in. Our presenter today is Scott Whitson, who came to Central Data in 2017 as a business consultant. His focus is primarily on client upgrades to Cloud Suite distribution, mass data maintenance, and analytics. He works in packages such as Burst. He's located in upstate New York. And Scott, with that, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Julie. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone taking a little bit of time out of their day to take a look at pricing updates, quick and easy. So, as Julie mentioned, we're going to be working in CSD today, Cloud Suite Distribution, but we also have the ability to do these things if you are on-premise and you're utilizing GUI. Some of the data conversion things that we'll be doing today are available on-premise still, so be mindful of that, but it all interfaces pretty well with CSD. So a couple of just high-level pieces of the agenda. We want to talk real quick about the current climate, maybe get the juices flowing on why this would be important or who this might apply to in your business. Ultimately, what I think is a really useful piece of functionality that some may or may not understand fully, which is combining data conversions with the future pricing module, which is PDSF. And then if that's not enough for what you need to accomplish, there are some more opportunities to do things in mass in a more efficient and complete, less error-prone way that we'll talk about at the end. So that's the plan, and as Julie said, if you have any questions throughout, please feel free to send those in. So the current climate, we've heard the buzzword of supply chain and the woes of supply chain recently on the news, on normal news channels that you're not necessarily hearing your supply chain news from. So vendors are increasing the frequency of price increase letters. One of the interesting tidbits that I saw last month, it came out in December, but 90% of companies report cost increases due to the supply chain issues that we're experiencing. And then 60% of those companies expect that trend to continue through at least 2022. And this was a survey done by the Federal Reserve of Richmond in December. And so you can actually get that information at cfosurvey.org. They publish that in cooperation with Duke University. So it's a nice place to check out some of that information. So additionally, on top of some of the supply chain issues that we've had making supply scarce, demand has increased due to the pandemic and home buying through e-commerce. An immediate response to that would be, well, I don't sell to people in their home. This is a business-to-business type distribution. Well, you may not, but your vendors may have issues supplying things because of their supply chain issues for other services, other manufacturing, requiring those raw materials to supply those people. that are at home. So everything is very interconnected, and you can be affected in ways that aren't immediately obvious. So with all that, what does that mean? So it means we've got those more frequent increases, and so that's going to take some more time and effort to update your ERP. So we're talking about SX, we're talking about Cloud Suite distribution. Typically, there are going to be situations where people are doing that manually. That's kind of the first step, manually going in and updating your product. And then there will be, the next step is, okay, I've got a price increase letter. It's effective in March 1st, so I'm going to use PDSF, the future pricing module, to enter those in beforehand. That way I'm ready to go on March 1st and my data's in there. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but I'm still putting that data in manually. So then the next step is we've got the ability to take all those manual entries that you're doing with those pricing updates, and you can put them in a template that is for data conversions, and you can upload those in mass. And so we're going to walk through that process today of combining future pricing, which is that PDSF module that I'm going to be talking about, demonstrating that, and then combining that with the data conversion tool that allows us to mass upload countless records. So if you're dealing with 30 prices, or excuse me, 30 products with price increases, or you're dealing with 30,000 products with price increases, they can all be done on the same spreadsheet. Same process, it doesn't matter in terms of volume. Just need a little bit of Excel, and we can get all that data in there. So future pricing, PDSF, allows for future prices to be loaded in the system. I alluded to the fact that if you're utilizing the PDSF screen, you're doing that product by product. And then those data conversion tools, most people who are familiar with them in terms of when they're upgrading, either they've acquired a company and they need to bring data in for a new warehouse, for a new set of products or customers, or they are migrating to CSD or SX from a different ERP, and all that data needs to be extracted from that ERP and put into the system. These data conversion tools allow us to do all of that en masse, and it saves a lot of time with manual entry, which not only takes time, is also error prone. If you're doing something hundreds of times to get this piece of data uploaded, there's bound to be some sort of error associated with that. So what we're going to do today is combine these two tools to get those future pricing records in efficiently and with increased accuracy. So some of the acronyms in CSD that we'll use today, we are very acronym heavy with Cloud Suite Distribution, SX. So we're going to be using PDSF, which is the Future Price Cost Change Setup. That's where we're going to be putting in those future pricing records. SAAFT is the File Transfer Administrator. That's what we're going to be utilizing to take the data from my desktop and put it into the tenant that I'm utilizing in CSD into the cloud. The data conversion that we're going to be utilizing is called DCDCF. It's just, instead of taking those one by one PDSF records, we're going to upload a handful in this demonstration. And then we're going to talk about PDAPF and how that is the thing that triggers or activates those future price records when the time is right. Lastly, just as a little tidbit, in CSD, we have this really useful tool called SAAMM. You may hear us refer to it as SAM. It is a mass maintenance tool that allows you to extract data from the database, the full gamut of fields that you might be familiar with accessing through a Q&D. This is a great tool, similar to pricing discounting mass maintenance PDEM, that allows you to extract that data from the database. The sample data that I pulled, the products that we're going to utilize today in the mass update, I pulled them from an ICSW data extract out of this mass maintenance, this SAAMM. So really useful tool. It'll help you get the data that you need to prepare yourself for one of these data extractions. So with that being said, we're going to hop into the software itself. And so I'm logged into CSD, and what we are going to first start off with is PDSF. So I'm going to head over to PDSF. And the reason I'm starting here is to get you familiar with the idea of what we're going to be mass uploading. So let's say that I've got some products that I've got a vendor increase from that is going to be effective March 1st. I can go, so there's a couple scenarios. I can go in on March 1st, I can go in, let's say I can go to ICSW, and I can go in and I can change the product right then and there. And I can do that for all warehouses, right? Obviously, I'm demonstrating that because that's really inefficient. You can also you can utilize other things like PDEC to make mass changes at the time that you're making that change. This future price cost change setup, PDSF, it allows you to put in a date when something is effective. So if I click over here on new and I type in a product, I'm just going to take one of my test products here. I set up a product. I can tell it when I want this data that I'm going to be putting into the system, when I want that to be effective. So I can say a March 1st effective date. Again, I'm putting this all in manually, but I can control when it affects my system. So I've got my iron plate, an effective date of March 1st, and then if I leave this blank, it's going to affect all warehouses. If I put in a specific warehouse, I can affect just that warehouse. Additionally, if you put in a specific warehouse, it will populate the current value for that warehouse. You can see how those populated there. If this is blank and applying to all warehouses, you won't get that data because there's multiple warehouses. It can't display it. So we have our product and we have our effective date. We're going to affect all warehouses for this. And then I can change my details down here. You can see I can change base price, list, my replacement cost, standard cost, foreign replacement cost if you're utilizing those. So I can change all of these, and I want you to remember what this looks like because we're gonna, when we switch over to our template for mass uploading, you're gonna see similarities there. So for this base price, I'm going to change it, and I've got some options here. I can say I'm going to provide a new value. I'm going to add or subtract a dollar value, or I'm going to provide it a percentage, either a percentage change of base price, or it's going to be a percentage of one of my other costs. So for instance, this base price could be 200% of my replacement cost. You're able to control that based on these parameters. So for instance, if I just said new, and I think I saw when this popped up that this was a $5 replacement cost or $5 base price, something like that. Let's take a look. Yeah, I've got a $5 current value here. So I can say that my base price is going to be $7. You don't have to change everything if you don't want to. But then let's say I utilize base price and my replacement cost, and my new replacement cost is going to be $4. So I'm just putting in new and then my new value. So really no calculations. I'm more so just replacing it with a new value here. We got some rounding in our pricing parameters, but overall, that's the gist of it is we're advising on how we're changing one of these fields and the value with which we're changing the field. And so I would hit save on that, and then I would have this future pricing record. And so the future pricing record, this is March 1st, it's just sitting out there. It's sitting out there, it's not going to be doing anything until we have something act upon it with this March 1st date. So what do I mean by that? When I'm gonna cancel this out. So just imagine I hit save there and I put that in there and it's waiting for March 1st. So the second piece of this, the second piece that actually will take action on that future price record that we just set up is called PDAPF. And so PDAPF, administrate our future prices and costs. If I click new here, new, let's just send it to my email for now. Ranges, pretty simple. I can input a range. If it's blank, we're going to affect all of our warehouses. And it's a pretty simple report. So the first thing that we have here is implement all changes through, and then it's asterisked out. So all those asterisks, if you're not familiar with that nomenclature, that means today's date. So whenever this runs, if this runs today, it would have 021622. So it's just a shortcut for putting in today's date, which is nice because if you have a stored report, then you'll always be implementing it through today's date, for instance. So that's important. This implement all changes through today's date. Delete blank warehouse when complete, we'd set to yes. Don't want to go too far into the weeds here, but I also like to set this to yes because if I'm changing something, I like to have a record of what I'm changing. So print all new prices and costs, yet set to yes. So what this does is when this runs, it's going to look at everything in these that has been created in this PDSF. So if I had that information in here for that iron plate that we set up, and this runs on March 1st, it's going to say, okay, that iron plate is set to March 1st. Well, what's today's date? It's March 1st. Okay, I'm going to implement that change. So what you've done is essentially you have, let's say you've taken care of your March increases, you've had them, if your vendor was kind enough to send them to you with a little time to get them into your system, then you're able to get that data in the system in February. This report runs on March 1st, and then everything, when everyone turns the lights on, unlocks the door that morning on March 1st, all of your data is up to date. So that's the goal. And this, so the reason I have this pointed out, this asterisk, is because this is a nice report to schedule. So if you were to schedule something like this to happen at, let's just say 2 a.m., arbitrarily 2 a.m. in the morning, and every day it's going to look for any increases out there, then all you really have to do is set up your future prices. Then this is going to run, and if you've got it set to email, it'll email you all the changes that you've made. So it's a nice duo, but the downside of it is that we've got to enter those manually. So this PDSF, you saw we were doing that one by one. We can automatically load the next product, but not even that necessarily is reducing the amount of times that you're just copying, pasting, looking up from an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF for that matter. You're clicking new for all these new products. So it's a great tool, but it's missing that last piece of doing it a little bit more efficiently. And so there is a data conversion exactly for this PDSF. And so if I click on new again, and I said I wanted you to kind of put a little mental note in about this base price replacement, some of these options here and your value. We have the tool from Infor for this data conversion. So this is really busy. I promise it won't look that busy when we go to the next sheet, but this is just giving us information on what is available to input into this database. So what we would do is anything that we're doing here manually, we can put it into a file in this format to input those into PDSF all in one swoop. We're going to take all of these and input those records. So I've got 30 products that I've put in here. And instead of doing that PDSF process 30 times, I'm just going to upload this spreadsheet one time. So let's take a look at what this spreadsheet is all about. And we'll kind of jump back and forth between this and that PDSF screen. I think you're going to see the similarities pretty quick. So I talked about the product ID. I've got 30 test products in here. My warehouse, if I wanted this to be warehouse specific. If I don't want it to be warehouse specific, I'll leave it blank. My effective date, when do I want these changes to occur? And then in these columns that reference types, list type, base type, etc., I have an N here for new. And there's a chart below here. So if I look at this base type, that's one of those, right? It says see chart below. If I scroll down here, I used N because it's the one that I see the most, and it's the one that I train on the most. But N is that new amount supplied. Enter the actual dollar amount. If the new value of the product should be $5.05, enter 5.05. If we jump back over to CSD, that's the same, that list of everything that I just showed you in Excel, they correspond exactly to this space here, okay? So when it says N for new, and I change this to 505, like that example, that's the same exact concept. So this N, or excuse me, this new is equal to N, and this is my new value. So if I go back here, you can see those different percentage changes. So calculate as a percent of list, a percent of standard cost. Are we adding or subtracting a dollar amount to that field? Change by percentage, did everything go up 5%? I just need to put a 5% increase on there. So you have those options. We're gonna stick with N for the new amount supplied for our example here. And so I've got an effective date. I'm gonna put it in today so we can see this actually happen in action. Because not only can you do this for the future, let's say that March 1st example, you could also do it for today and then just run the PDAPF for today. So it works exactly the same. So I'm gonna do it for today as an effective date. If you like the idea of putting these in the future, just imagine that we're doing this for March 1st. I've got my new value, and I've got just some bogus base price, list price, replacement cost, standard cost. I've got some information in here that I'm supplying. And so for instance, this base price for this steel bar, I've got N. So it means it's gonna be a new value, and that new value is gonna be $11. So the nice thing about this is, particularly for standard cost or list price, base price, you might be doing some calculations already in Excel. So if you're doing stuff in Excel, your vendor has already sent you information in Excel, you're really already working in that piece of software, so you can continue working in it in here. One of the things that I got, you may or may not have, depending on how you structure your product IDs. I pulled these out of CSD utilizing the SAA-MM, that mass maintenance feature. I just extracted these from the ICSW warehouse. So that's why I really like that software as a piece of the CSD product. So I've got my data here, and then I want to save that. And what I typically recommend for folks utilizing these data conversions is saving as a tab delimited text. So if I go save as, browse, and if I go to this text tab delimited, then I've got a text file that is tab delimited. Comma separated values work, but if you're dealing with anything that's associated with descriptions, a lot of times we've got commas and descriptions, and that can mess up your data. So I've got my file. I've got that pdsf.txt that I created. I'm going to cancel out of here, and I had a copy of it already. Bear with me 1 second. In my copy here, so I have a copy here. Just want to demonstrate that tab delimited. So if you had to open this up in something like Notepad++, you would see that tab delimited nature there. So I've got a copy that I saved beforehand with this PDSF 0216. So that file is on my computer. Let's get that over to the cloud. And so I'm going to utilize SAAFT. SAAFT is my file transfer, so I am taking that PDSF, that text file that I just created. I'm going to be utilizing a data conversion, and I'm going to hit transfer file. So it took that file from my desktop, and it is now on the server that is hosting my my tenant of Cloud Suite distribution. So we'll close that out. Cancel this. So the next spot that I want to head towards is I've got that file. And I need to run the program DCDCF. So I'm going to go to DCDCF here. I'm going to do a new one time. I'm going to email myself. I'm going to put in my file name, pdsf0216.txt. My first row did contain headings. We saw that. We've got the product, warehouse, etc. Import ID, we'll just create a unique identifier here. I'll use central data, then today's date. Admin ID, I've got one set up as central CD for central data, and if you want more information on that, that's associated with the screen DCAOS. It's data conversion admin options. But what this is controlling is that when I type in CD, this CD admin ID is associated with text tab delimited files. That's really all that is, and a little bit of date formatting. Then update no is going to validate the data and just give you feedback on if it found all the products, if your products are valid, if the costs are numbers, that type of thing, and then just give you feedback. If we've got this set to update, it's going to run the data. It's going to upload it. So I should be getting an email here shortly. It's going to take that file and it's going to let me know if it's created that information. So I've got my file. And looks good. So we had 30 records, so 31 plus the header, so 30 PDSF records created. So we're in good shape there. So we'll close out of that. So that DCDCF, so kind of take a pause here for a moment. So that DCDCF, it took this file that we created. my sample file, not really a big file, 30 records, someone can probably do that pretty quick. But if this was 3,000 records, the speed with which we just created those was less than 10 minutes. So big gains in efficiency when this, especially with a large vendor, if you've got multiple records on here, the gains in efficiency really do go up when you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of products. So let's take a look. So that DC DCF in that output, it said it created 30 new records. So let's take a look at what it created. Whoops. You do need to put in a product in here. So I just uploaded those 30 records. Let's take a look at that first one, steel bar. I'll hit search. And so this is my data from my spreadsheet. So we've got our steel bar, effective date of today, new, our different information here. It all correlates to this row here. So again, we could do the new one time each time, and then PDAPF will make that data effective on the correct date, or you can just upload it all with this one spreadsheet. So all of this data, so if I searched for any other ones, let's just pick on pump. So all of that data is loaded as a PDSF record. So it's loaded as a PDSF record, which can be confusing sometimes. So this data is sitting out here. Your actual costs in your warehouse at this time have not changed. Nothing's changed. So this future price cost record is in the system, but your ICSW, for instance, if I have my replacement cost here, my ICSW record is not reflecting this change yet. And so that is what that PDAPF will do. So again, just to talk about our scenario, I've got it in an effective date because I want to show this to you today for demo purposes, but for a real world situation where you are handling this, let's say on you've got a March 1st increase that you're working on today, your effective date will be March 1st. PDAPF, you have the option to schedule this every morning, and then once you've got these loaded in February, everything's good to go. March 1st comes along, and then this is going to pick up and say, oh, yep, hey, we've got records in PDSF that need to go into effect. It'll make them go into effect, and then your cost increase is completed. So we're going to run this just as a one time and pick up those effective products. Again, a real world scenario would be that this would likely be scheduled every day. I'm going to implement all changes through today. I'm going to just real quick, the date sequence if warehouse specific records exist. This gets more into how this is defined with a warehouse. If we have blank records here, like here, which one takes precedence if I had one that had a warehouse, one with stone brick, no warehouse here, and a stone brick with a warehouse. It just says, how do I handle those? I'm going to select yes on this. And so we're running this PDAPF. Just to reiterate, this would be something maybe 2 in the morning. Nobody's really having to touch this. It's just going through and checking for any of those future price costs here. So when you've got that set to email, take a look at, we'll bring this over. This is where I put my money where my mouth is. So hopefully this is our options. And hopefully if we go down here, we've got some updates, and lo and behold, this is just a list. So that last option in PDAPF says, do you want to print out of everything that I've changed? And so I like to select that as yes. That way I've got a record of what time, what product, what warehouse, what data was adjusted. I think it's a nice thing to have. When doing anything in mass, it's nice to have a record of what was changed when. So we've got a posting, a total number of records, 30. This is just a legend here, but we've got our 30 products that we adjusted with the new data here. And then if I go to this product, go back to PDSF, we'll search here, that's gone because I implemented it. So it's no longer a future price change. That record was deleted because now it is in ICSW. So we'll take ICSW. I'm going to switch over to my warehouse and click on this pump. So I'm jumping over to costs, not that I remembered that it was memorized or practiced that it was $91, but that is the new cost. But the thing that really sticks out that is useful is that this replacement cost date and this standard cost date are updated. So you've got a visual on what is when the last time this was touched in terms of cost updates. You can also do that in, I believe it's product inquiry. Change this warehouse. So if I'm in product inquiry and I'm on the general tab, with Cloud Suite distribution, you'd be able to personalize this and maybe make it a little bit more prominent. But if you go down to the latest dates, hidden here down towards the bottom, we've got a price change of 216.22. If you've got sales folks or anyone else for that matter who that's really relevant information, maybe out in the field, you'd be able to put that somewhere a little more prominent and they can just look it up in ICIP. They don't have to worry about ICSW or anything of that nature. So in summary, I think it's a very useful method to utilize, especially if your vendor is giving you future price costs, even if it's a week ahead or a month ahead. If they can give you that heads up beforehand, you can get started with your cost increase. You don't have to wait to the day of the increase to get that information in there. You can start as soon as your vendor gives it to you. You can pinpoint exactly what day you want that data to be into the system. And with the data conversion, you do not have to do them one by one. You can do them all in one Excel spreadsheet. This is vendor agnostic, so you can do however many vendors you want to do. This is your product ID, so you do need to have that. And so yeah, combined with PDSF, this data conversion, they're two really great tools, and then everything gets input into the system with that PDAPF. So that's a demonstration of that piece. I did want to talk, it's a great tool, it's very straightforward, but I wanted to show you real quick. If you don't have, if it's not providing you everything you need, there is a more advanced tool, and it's called product import. Product import was built on the structure of supplier link, if you're familiar with that. And product import allows you to create and manage existing products. So ICSP, warehouse products, ICSW, and then even catalog items, ICSC. So you can really hit all of your product information utilizing product import. It's not limited to prices and costs with the tool that we just talked about. you can create and update many of the fields associated with your product's properties. And then additionally, it utilizes cross-referencing. So you may or may not have your product ID associated with that vendor information that comes across from your vendor. But if you do have something like UPC or your product, your vendor's product ID is received from the vendor and you've got that stored in ICSW, we can utilize product import to cross-reference that, shaving off the requirement of having your product ID in the data that you're uploading. So it is a more complex tool, but it also allows a lot of flexibility for you to map the data in the way that you see best. Additionally, the ability to affect, manage, create data in the catalog is one of the primary features of product import as well. So with that being said, that's what I wanted to demonstrate for you today. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
So yes, we do have a question in the chat, Scott. So I'll start with that one.
Sure.
The comment in question is, I know users have to have certain permissions to access SAAMM, that mass maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have to have certain permissions to use the rest of the pages, PDSF, SAAFT, DCDCF, and PDAPF?
That's a great question. So the answer is yes, absolutely. So all of this is going to be tied to function security. So that function security at the operator level in SASO. So we were referencing this SAAMM. This is at mass maintenance. So there's a couple of screens associated with that, SAAMU, SAAMD. They need, in order to effectively utilize that piece of the software, they would need access to those as well. The same goes with these four here. So this PDAPF, I've drilled it home that that's probably something that is going to be scheduled, but you would have someone with rights to schedule that. File transfer, we're uploading files, no real harm with that. It's very specific thing there. PDSF, this is going to be some more purchasing or any data analysis type user would be having access to that in operator security. DCDCF, similar thing, so similar as PDSF, except you're doing everything in mass. So probably again, someone who's been trained in it, purchasing, data analysis, someone who is going to be skilled with Excel, knows exactly what they're putting in the system, because I have to put this disclaimer out there. Whenever we're dealing with tools like DCDCF and those data conversions, or mass maintenance here in SAAMM, or even product import that I mentioned, we are dealing with a ton of data. And so with great power comes great responsibility. You have the ability to really save some time and get a lot of work done really quickly, but you also have the ability to screw something up. So you want to be very mindful that the people that are utilizing that are trained well, they know what they're doing, and I suppose I'll leave it at that. But it's very important that the people getting these security levels, that needs to be a very intentional act. This isn't something that you would give to everybody.
And someone who's not interrupted in the process. You want to have heads down time to concentrate on such tools.
That's
right?
A good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Any other questions from anyone? I could open the phone lines if anyone would like to ask a question. I don't see anything else in the chat or in the questions section.
Well, if if there's no other questions, and if you do have one, please let us know. But if there's no questions, and maybe you're thinking about this a little bit later, if you have any additional questions that come up after
Hi, do
this
you hear me?
call. Oh, yeah.
Hi, it's Jesus from Wholesale Electric. How you doing today?
Hello, Jesus. Doing well.
Great. So, question. I'm trying to identify the product import. I know there is a lot of training for that one because you need to first prepare the template, right, for the file that you want to use to upload every time you want to update that.
Yes. PISI.
Okay. So we are using right now mass maintain because we use standard cost. But the big problem in our company right now is the add-ons, that some products came with add-ons, and anytime we receive it, it's different quantity. And we need to capitalize that add-ons in all the warehouse to have the same cost in all our warehouse in Puerto Rico. So the best way that I'm founding to do that every time is the mass maintain. Is that the best way to do that?
Without having additional information regarding that requirement from warehouse to warehouse, probably need a little bit more information on that regard. So can certainly help you with that. But yeah, mass maintenance is certainly a way to do that, especially if it's something a little infrequent. But product import.
Question. ICSW, the standard cost. There is any report that I can run to see the changes in that field and a specific product?
Any standard reporting that just populates that date change?
Yeah, the price, the cost change. Like this is the time, the changes that have been made in this file standard cost in ICSW.
I'll check for you, Jesus, and I'll email you. I've got your email address. I'll see if I can find that for you. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Sam at Clinics, and I had sent this, but it didn't quite take, I guess. I was wondering if when you're in PDSF and you've got the rounding, does that affect both the base list and the cost when you have that rounding in effect?
Yes, it does. Yep, that's a good question. So the rounding in effect, so it might be a little bit more visible over here. So
Yeah.
if we did our product, all that fun stuff, and then we went down to the bottom here, so we can round up, down, and then just standard rounding is nearest, and then we can go out to whatever fraction of a decimal that we need to.
Mm-hmm. Which is difficult because our cost, our base and list, we want rounded to 2 decimals, but our cost, we take it all the way out to 5 if that's.
Sure. So one thing you can do with that is we would say our base price, maybe we'll stick with that nickel demonstration, but we want, let's say, 4 decimal places. So it would look like that. And then additionally, we'll just put it, we're just going to take an example here. If you're working in Excel, we can take that data and we can round it out to however many digits we want. So we can say 5 there. And then let's say this was 21.314159265.3. So we had a crazy cost there, and then you can bring it out here. This is to 5 digits. Did I get that right? That number's not expanding for me, but it should. There we go. So I can go out to 4 digits on that. I think I said 5 digits. So 5 digits there. And then if I continue down here, that 31, those 5 digits shouldn't affect you on that piece. So you would be able to have kind of the best of both worlds. If this was $31 or if we said $31.05, but it had all zeros there, it shouldn't affect you in that regard.
So basically, if we only want the cost to go out 5 digits, we would show that in column K there,
Correct. Yep.
the way we want it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Good question. All right.
Okay,
Any
are
other
there any
questions?
We were going to say the same
Okay.
thing. Any other
Sorry,
questions?
I do have another. Did you explain what SAMMU and SAMMD stand for? You mentioned about needing security.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question because so SAAMU, the U stands for update, and the D in SAAMD stands for delete. And so with SAAMM, you can go in and you can, if you have access just to SAAMM, you can go in and you can create data sets, but you are not, so it'll kind of allow you to go in here. It'll allow you to create a data set from a table, but when it comes time to update it, or if you wanted to delete it, it'll say that you don't have the ability to do that because you don't have access to SAAMU or D. It's just something in the background that is actually performing the act of deleting or creating, and it's just something that I always forget to add myself to AMU and AMD, and I have to go back into Sasso to do that. So that's why I brought it up.
Good to know.
Yep.
Hey, Scott,
Yes.
if a supplier were to have a price increase of just like say 6% across the board, how would that percentage be entered into like PDAPF, for instance? Would it be like 1.06 or just 6?
Great question. So if we go,
Okay.
so this is the one that seems the most similar to your question. Change by percentage supplied, you would just put that, and this can be plus or minus if we ever ran into a cost decrease situation, but you would just do 5% for that product, or the value would be 5 rather.
Great. Thank you, Scott. That's perfect.
Yep.
Hey, Scott,
Yes.
a question for you in regards to the template that you're using. I came in a little late and not sure where you generated this or how you format this or where I get this information from.
Sure. That's a good question. This is an Infor supplied product. This particular PDSF, it comes with a set of all the products here. Let me just, they have a whole data conversion suite with all the different tables that they have the ability, you have the ability to load. The best place I can recommend you to go to for that would be Infor's support portal. And if you type in these 4 words, data conversion field maps. If you type in those, it's going to give you the data conversion field maps. They continuously release them as the database progresses in version. So that's where you can grab that information.
And that was the tech support portal?
Yeah, the Infor support or Infor Extreme portal. Some might be familiar with that term.
Hey Scott, this is Amanda from Statewire.
Amanda?
You exported all the data that you were using in the Excel file. You exported that out from SAAMM, correct?
Yes, I exported these product IDs.
Okay, and so the rest of the headers, you just typed those in yourself, knowing that what you needed from the data map?
So one of the tricks I used for that, so I'm just going to create a new sheet and show you that. So these are the Infor database field names. It'll show you here which ones are required. But what I do is I take the field names. So there's 24 here. I'm just going to copy those. And then in cell A1, if I right click and hit transpose, these two arrows going right and down, transpose, that gives me my headers.
Okay, and you just exported the required stuff that you needed.
You got it. Yep. So in our example, I got this from, I got this from mass maintenance, I might pull like a specific vendor, which is what I think I did in this case. But if I was updating one vendor, I might pull all their products, maybe the vendor product ID with that as well, so I can tie to whatever data the vendor gave me, and then I would populate with whatever information I needed into the system normally.
Okay, and then you just deleted that set that you exported from mass maintenance since you didn't need it anymore?
Yeah, correct. It's good habit to get into to clean those up when you're finished in mass maintenance.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, Scott, one more question.
Sure.
For suppliers that do not publish a list price or maybe even an MSRP for base, is there a way to just link those columns to a cost with like a set rule, so you're just updating cost and not base or list?
I am not familiar with one. I'm not familiar with that rule. One thing you could do would be to just have, so in this example, I've got base and list just equaling each other. If you were wanting to make that a rule internally, that could be a business decision that you make, and then these columns would all just be the same value. But in terms of populating it automatically, I don't know of a rule to do that.
Okay, yep. Just random question, thanks.
Where can we get a copy of that, the guidelines you have there? Is it that first tab? Yeah, where can we get that?
So this whole thing here is a part of the data conversion templates, and if you go to Infor support portal or Infor Extreme and type in data conversion field maps.
Oh, that's where we're going to get all of that.
Yeah, there's a zip file that includes all of these, and so the one that we're using is PDSF.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And Sam, if you have, if you have specific questions, of course I can help you with that too.
Yep, I know where to find you.
Hey, Scott, this is Mike from Bearing Service.
Hey, Mike.
How you doing?
Well.
Quick question as far as, does CSD have a feature to load multiple rebate records?
Yes. So there's a couple of ways to do it. So I had briefly mentioned something called PDEM. So PDEM is a really useful tool for both pricing records and rebate records.
Okay.
So PDEM is a super tool for that. And then along the same lines as this data conversion, PDSF, there is a rebate function. There's a rebate template as well called PDSR. And so if PDSR, yep, that's the rebate table in the database. And
okay.
very similar to what we did today, obviously there's a lot more data associated with a rebate record, but similar kind of layout and structure. If you were to go into PDSP and set up a rebate, you would see all these different fields that are associated with that rebate. We can put these, you can use this similar program, I believe it's DCR, to do the same process that I showed you today, but with rebates. And so they would show up in PDSP.
Okay. And
so you have this option, and then you have PDEM as a built-in screen option as well.
PDEM is probably the easier of the two.
I would agree. Yeah.
without needing a lot of extra security to be able to run the data conversion toolkit. It's right on your menu.
Can you export and import via PDEM?
Yep.
Yes, you can. So we've got our import Excel with new records here. So you would be able to do that. And then once you've got a set created in PDEM, you'd be able to export that set.
Scott,
Okay,
Yes.
I have to play with that.
this is, sorry. Hi, this is Lori from Replenix. I have a question that being you're touching on this. Are you guys going to do a webinar on rebates and PDEM? I mean, we use them quite a bit here at Replenix, so Lee and I, we work in it quite a bit, but I'd like a deeper dive into it. Is it something you've considered?
We can add it to the list. And of course, at any time, if anyone needs training on any of these areas, if you just log an issue with our support team at support@centraldata.com, we can schedule something with you directly. If you can't wait for a webinar, okay?
No, no, we can wait, but thank you.
Okay.
Scott, also, just to let you know, there was an update, I think in the summer, on pricing hierarchy, that you can change it now in the type 2s.
Yes.
And that kind of corrected the issue that we had where our price types should have been PCATs and PCATs should have been prices.
Right. Yeah. So this level 2 pricing hierarchy is one of the updates. CSD is pushed out over the summer is what you're referring to for everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. So we ended up rebate type, product line, then price type, then product category, which
Excellent.
made the most sense for how we had things set up incorrectly 20 years ago.
Good deal. All right, Julie. Anything else to add?
Well, just know that, as I said at the beginning, we are always working in Cloud Suite. So we have the most current release. So if you haven't, made that decision yet to move to cloud, that's how you get your monthly updates. So I'll just put that plug in there. If you want to know more about how you can migrate to Cloud Suite, just let me know as well. Scott, thank you so much. I know we had a lot of questions there, and it's a very deep and broad topic. So we thank you so much for your expertise and showing us this today. That was great.
Yes, thank you. My pleasure. And I appreciate the questions and the engagement. So thanks again to everyone on the call today.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.